In this lecture, we are going to explore a JavaScript feature called modules. By learning React, we ran into an example of a module. In the index.js file, there are two import statements. Importing data from another file is a part of JavaScript's module system. Third-party packages are not the only ones that can export data. JavaScript gives us the power to export and import data. In our file, we have about 30 lines of code. Our file is starting to get large. I think it would be a good idea to separate our functions into different files. By doing so, it'll be easier to manage our files. Let's get started by creating two files inside the source directory. The files will be called page.js and header.js. While we're here, let's delete the app.js file. It's not being used. We can safely delete it from our project. Next, we're going to move our functions into these files. First, move the header function into the header file. Afterward, move the page function into the page file. By moving everything around, we've completely broken our app. According to the error on the page, the error states that the page component is missing. It can't find the page function. Therefore, it's unable to render the page. We can fix this by importing the page function. However, first, we must export the component. Switch over to the page file. Let's add the following keywords to the function. Export default. By default, data is restricted to a file. We don't have access to data from other files, nor are they expressed through imports. We must explicitly export data by using the export keyword. By doing so, JavaScript will allow specific values to be available to other files. In this example, we're allowing the page function to be available. For further demonstration, let's create a variable called age outside of the function. This variable does not have the export keyword. Since that's the case, it's not accessible outside of the file. Let's keep moving on. Next, we are adding the default keyword. This keyword configures the namespace. From time to time, you may hear the word namespace. The idea of a namespace applies to programming in general. It's a concept for organizing data into different locations. For example, let's say you had a folder for storing movies, music, and photos. You wouldn't store these files in a single folder. A better way to organize your files is by storing them in different folders. The same idea can be applied to variables and functions. We may not always need every function or variable exported by a file. In some cases, we may want to grab a single function. The rest can be left alone. Files can export multiple values. Each value can be assigned to a namespace or location. In our example, we're assigning the page function to the default namespace. A default namespace is available in every file. By using the default namespace, we can avoid assigning a name. Therefore, we can remove the function name from our function. An anonymous function will suffice. Next, we can import the function into the index file. At the top of the file, add an import statement with the import from keywords. The packages can be imported by their names. What about local files? A local file can be imported by providing a relative path. Let's set the path to /page. The extension can be omitted from the file name. The JS extension will be assumed. Next, we need to give our import a name. The name can be whatever we want. The default namespace allows our import statements to assign a custom name to the default value. In some cases, you might want to use the same name as the function. For demonstration purposes, let's set the name to page. Despite importing the page component, the page is not working. There are two problems with our program. Firstly, the react.createElement function is not available in the page file. Secondly, the header component is not imported into the page component. Let's fix these issues. Back in the page file, the first error has to do with our JSX. As a reminder, JSX elements are converted into the react.createElement function. However, this function is not available in this file. To fix the error, we must import this function. At the top of the file, import the React object from the React package. Let's address the second issue. Switch over to the header file. We're going to add the export keyword to the function. By omitting the default keyword, we are required to give our function a name. If I were to remove the function name, an error would get thrown from the editor. Under the function, a red squiggly line will appear. We can hover our mouse over the line to view the error. The error states that it was expecting a name. Unless we're exporting a function or variable under the default namespace, a name must be given to the export. Let's add the name back in. Next, import the React object from the React package. We're importing the React package for the same reason as before. Our JSX will not work without this package being imported. Let's head over to the page file. At the top of the file, import the header file with the import from keywords. Unlike the default namespace, values exported with a name must be imported by their name. We can import values by their names by adding a pair of curly brackets. Inside these brackets, we can specify the values to import from the file. Let's add the header function. Just like that, our app should be fully functional. If it's not, you may need to refresh the page. Stack Blitz can be buggy from time to time. We've successfully broken our application into separate files. This is the power of JavaScript's module system. To be clear, this is not a React feature. It's pure JavaScript. Let's get back into some React-specific code. I'll see you in the next lecture.